realize something, Ethan. Let me make sure that I. That probably changes how I sound a little bit. Maybe not,
Oh,
but
yeah, yeah,
it
sound a lot
does.
better.
Yes, there we go. Okay, and that will be good specifically for the podcast. That's what that's more for. But yeah, we're going live. Obviously, it's still 3, so people might be at work, all that stuff. So whenever you guys join, you join, or if you're watching the replay, thank you so much for watching. But obviously, a lot of big Spurs news dropped. We told you guys last night that we would go live once the big news dropped, and we all anticipated a potential sign and trade to the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, now we see that DeMar DeRozan is going there, and we're getting a first-round pick, 2 second-round picks, Thaddeus Young and Al-Farouq Aminu back in the trade. Ethan, instant reaction. What do you think?
I'm glad we got something done. At least we're getting something back, so we're not just left empty-handed without an additional big man. Power forward was our biggest hole, we said, after the first day of free agency. And to me, Thaddeus Young fits that description of a guy that's just going to come in, give you some solid hustle minutes, get a lot of rebounds, play solid defense. Not much of a shooter, but he is definitely a physical player that we can definitely use in front of, or I guess maybe third string behind Luka Samanic or sharing minutes with Luka Samanic. Not exactly sure how that's going to work. And of course, we got 3 picks out of it. So, that's all great.
Yeah, my instant reaction is when I see who we're getting back, I'm like, okay, DeRozan's trade value is in the dumpster, which is
Yeah.
fair. At the rest of the league, I wouldn't be offering anything. I know he's leaving regardless. So I would be offering Al-Farouq Aminu and Thad Young. But the fact that we got 3 draft picks out of this
Mm-hmm.
is honestly, I mean, look, these picks probably aren't going to turn into anything crazy, especially when you consider that this is like Chicago really stacked up to try to contend. Their starting lineup is probably going to be Alonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, and Vucevic. That's a pretty solid starting 5 in the East. I feel like they have
Mm-hmm.
they have a slight chance of maybe potentially being a top 3 team. Maybe that's a little bit of a reach, but I feel like that could kind of be their ceiling with the roster that they have. So obviously, these picks are not going to be anything crazy. We don't really know the years on them as of right now. I haven't seen anything. If y'all see anything, feel free to talk about it in the chat. But just initially, once again, it's like, okay, we got 3 picks out of this, which means that's just like trade assets. The more picks you have, the better it is. Like, it just, for trade assets, whatever it is, it makes doing other things easier and gives you more flexibility. But the other thing that I do like about Thad Young and Al-Farouq Aminu is that, one, they're both expiring contracts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fairly certain that Al-Farouq Aminu's is. I could be mistaken there. I
Yeah,
know
you're,
for
you're you're right.
Okay. I know for a fact that Thad Young's is. It's about 14 million. Right now, if we keep both of these guys, we're at 4.3 million in cap space, which basically rounds out our roster. But the thing is that both of these 2 guys, thank you, Ivan, 2025 first round pick. Both of these guys, their contracts are available to be flipped. It seems like I'm not certain on Al-Farouq Aminu. I did see though that Thaddeus Young, we could move him for more draft capital. We could move both of these guys for more picks potentially, and they are expiring deals, so that is a possibility. But if for some reason these guys do end up just staying on the roster and this was it, this was the final move, this is the Spurs roster, this is our free agency, we're going to save that 4.3 million, put it into whatever, and this is the roster. I'm not mad at getting these 2 guys in a trade either, Ethan, because I feel like this is 2 power forwards. These are 2 fours. Thad has spent a lot more time this past year playing the 5, although he can play the 4 just because, like you said, his shooting ability went down. He has had some years where he shot around 36% from 3. So Thad Young took a little bit of step back shooting wise, especially last year, shot like 20% or whatever. But you give him Chip England, and he'll probably be able to be somebody who can make a wide open 3. Which, if we're playing him at the 4, I feel like that's good enough for me. But yeah, so just looking at some of you guys in the chat as well. Thad Young is 33. Some of you guys are already answering each other's questions. So awesome stuff there. We love that. But just, I like the deal. I do like the deal to answer that. I know that it doesn't seem that attractive, and a lot of Spurs fans are going to be like, this is the most crappy deal for DeMar ever. I can't believe this, really. But to me, it seems like this was the best deal that we can get. And the fact that we're not losing DeMar DeRozan for nothing. There have been other people who have left for nothing. We're not losing him for nothing. That is a good thing at the end of the day. And if these two veterans that we're bringing in, another factor, if these two guys are people who stay on the team, with all of the losses of Patty, Rudy, and now DeMar, we just need some other veterans on the team. Honestly, my first thought, Ethan, when I saw Thad Young before I saw Al-Farouq Aminu is, okay, Zach Collins will probably play over him. He's just he'll probably play at the beginning of the season because Zach is hurt. But it's like, I just immediately thought Gorgie Jang. That's what I thought. I was like, oh, he's just Gorgie Jang again, except, not as good of a shooter. But
I don't see Gorgie Jang really, because I think the big selling point for Thaddeus Young to me is his ability to defend basically 2 through 5. Because he's 6'8", he's long, he's averaged a steal or close to 2 steals a game for almost his entire career. So he's a guy that we can really throw in there, and he can guard anybody. He's what I like about him more than what I liked about Rudy. Rudy needed the ball to be effective, and he wasn't a great defender. Thaddeus Young is the exact opposite. He doesn't ever really need the ball that much. He's an off-ball guy, and he's a hard-nosed defender. He's going to get you some rebounds. He's going to play defense. I really actually like it. I know he's 33 years old, but like you said, his expiring contract, he's probably not going to be here long-term. So just for the season, I think it fits.
yeah, I guess to go back to what I was talking about earlier, I wasn't comparing them as players. It was more, I guess, their role for the franchise. I should have specified that. I didn't specify that because I agree with you. Thaddeus Young and Gorgie Jang are two very different players. But at the same time, I think their role in the franchise just also kind of eating cap. Like, he was $17 million last year. Thaddeus Young, if we keep him, $14 million. An older guy, been around the league. Like, that kind of role, I guess, is what I was saying. Just as a veteran big was, I guess, what I was referring to. And then in regards to Al-Farouq Aminu, he's also a versatile defender. He's older, and obviously isn't the guy that he used to be, but he's somebody who can kind of also guard, not through 5, but he can kind of guard that 2 through 4 range, 3 positions. So these guys aren't guys that I don't think are going to be getting big time minutes. But if we need them to be there, they're multi-positional defenders. Al-Farouq Aminu can shoot the 3 a little bit. And we needed depth in the 4 and the 5 position, and these guys bring that. So
I'm just taking a look at Al-Farouq Aminu's stats. I guess, okay. So he only played 4 games in 2018,
didn't
but 17 points a game back then. And he's kind of gone downhill. I wasn't high on the Al-Farouq Aminu pickup when you said his name. But I'm a huge fan of Thaddeus Young. I think he'll contribute more than people think today. Does that make sense?
I agree with that too. And I don't really think that Al-Farouq Aminu is going to play if he's even on the roster. But still, it is just some, like, if we are going to trade, if we have to get another player back, like, get it back at this position of need that we haven't had depth at this whole time. So we added more depth at positions of need, got some picks back. But I agree with you, definitely. If one of these guys is going to play and they don't get traded, Thaddeus Young will be the one who plays much more for sure. Maybe Al-Farouq Aminu's comparison, maybe he was a little bit better Gorgie Jang comparison in that he'll only play if he has to. But
and another reason, I think a lot of people, including you and I, were thinking about Lauri Markkanen coming back from Chicago if we were to sign and trade DeMar over there. And that didn't happen. But Thaddeus Young is not as good of a player as Lauri Markkanen, probably, and Lauri Markkanen is a lot younger and all that. But at least we know Luka Samanic doesn't necessarily have to worry about his minutes being completely taken away by somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like these moves, just with other than Zach Collins, that's somebody that probably, unless they may play him at center. We did talk about that possibility yesterday, so I kind of forgot that when I was talking about it. But other than him, really, that would be the only person that I would be like, oh, that might take minutes away from me. But as we talked about, it seems like he might end up playing center, so Luka really wouldn't have too much to worry about other than Thad Young and Zach Collins. But
maybe, like you said, maybe it's Eubanks whose minutes are going to be taken away because of these moves.
And I think, honestly, I feel like that's more likely. I know that sounds crazy because, just to be blunt, Drew Eubanks played better than Luka Samanic next year, but still that idea of what Samanic could be, and also how many injuries Samanic had to deal with. He's not playing in the summer league because he's still nursing like a foot thing or something like that. That came out too. So interesting stuff with Luka there, but we'll have to say. And Haiti, you said no Collins anymore. Yeah, there's not a chance that we can offer that max to John Collins, but I have a feeling that if the Spurs wouldn't have made this move if they didn't think that John Collins was out of the picture, because still the latest intel on John Collins is that him and the Atlanta Hawks are not anywhere close to an agreement. So I assume that in this time that the sign and trade with DeRozan happened, the Spurs went out and explored the possibility, see if John Collins would be interested in that. Maybe they got back that, oh, he's just bluffing. He's going to sign back with the Hawks. You never know what intel could be out there, but the Spurs have more of it than we do. That's for sure. So I have a feeling that they did their due diligence, and especially with all the moves they've made so far, I don't have the impression that they didn't look around, field every single possibility other than this, and then take this. The only thing that I'm concerned about, Ethan, the only thing that disappoints me in this whole thing is before I saw the Al-Farouq Aminu added to the trade, I thought for a second we still had like 15 million, and I was like, wait. Yeah. Are we going to get Thad Young and then also get Kelly Oubre? And then I was going to be like, that would be a great haul. So honestly, my preferred, here's what I would do. This is what I hope happens. I don't think it will, but what I hope happens is the Spurs flip Thad Young and Al-Farouq Aminu for picks, sign Kelly Oubre, end of free agency. Will that happen?
Yeah, probably
not. No, this is just a pipe dream, but I can dream, Ethan. I can dream.
You can dream, and you know what? Maybe it happens. You never know, because no one predicted Primo. Nobody predicted Thaddeus Young and Al-Farouq Aminu. So maybe they do flip them and get somebody else like a Kelly Oubre. Who knows? We don't know. Yeah. I'm going to address a couple of these things real quick. Adolfo Hernandez, what do you guys think the starting lineup would be if we don't sign anyone else? You want me to take a crack at it, Jude, and then I'll throw it to you?
Yes, go, because I'm actually going to update my little roster board.
Yeah, I have the same thing.
Day, so
I got the same thing. So here's my I'm not going to give you just a starting five. I'm going to give you pretty much the whole depth chart. At the 1, we got DJ, we got Derek, Keldon. I would put Zach Collins at the 4 and Jakob. And then backing up everybody, the second unit would be Trey Jones, Lonnie Walker, Devin Vassell, Luka Samanic, and Drew Eubanks. And then, of course, rounding out the rotation, Primo behind Lonnie, or probably in the G League, Doug McDermott, splitting minutes with Devin and Luka. Not really sure where he will fit there. And then Thaddeus Young, of course, now, and Al-Farouq Aminu, and Wieskamp, probably two-way player / G League as well. Yeah. That's what I'm going with. And unless we move Zach Collins, like you said, to a backup center, and then we move Luka to the starting 4, and then Thaddeus Young can share minutes with Doug at that like 4-3 combo type thing. It really all depends on where we're putting Zach Collins and whether or not he's playing.
I forgot about Doug McDermott. You're talking about this, and I'm like, who is this Doug guy that you're talking about? He's not on our team. And then I'm like, oh, that's right. We signed Doug McDermott yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Just some random Doug.
Yeah, no, I think that Wieskamp is going to end up being a two-way guy this year, just because of roster space. Just because straight up of roster space. The year after, I think he'll be involved in the team. He's going to play in Austin this year anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And then, okay, because I'm just trying to figure out positionally where we're at. So at point guard, I have DeJounte and then Trey Jones. Do we have any other point guards on the roster? Other than, you could say Derek, technically.
Yeah, not unless you want to consider Primo a 1, but yeah. I'm putting him at the 2 for now.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing too. But I think what we're kind of doing is I think that our guards are versatile. Like, we only have 2 true point guards, you could say, but all our other, like Derek can play point for sure. Mm-hmm. We know that. I think Primo can, and we haven't seen it from Lonnie yet, but I think if he had to, he could too. So at shooting guard, we've got Derek, Lonnie, Primo still. And then at the 3, we've got Keldon, Doug, Devin, and Wisekamp. Obviously, Keldon may still be at the 4. This is us, not the Spurs, thinking here.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the 4, would you have Zach Collins there, or are you considering him a 5?
He is officially a 4.
Okay.
But he has played
Obviously
5.
he can play. Yeah.
It,
Okay, but we're gonna
yeah.
classify. Where do you think the Spurs are gonna play him? You're not sure. Can't say.
You never know. I mean, I would play him at the 4, but like Trevor Schultz just said, he is still hurt, so we don't even know if he's going to be, playing at the beginning of the season.
I think they're going to play Thad at the 4.
He'll definitely be at the 4. Thaddeus is 100% a 4.
Okay. So I'm going to put Zach Collins as a center just because of the fact that we're putting Thad as a 4, just so it can be a little bit more fleshed out here. Obviously, everything with Zach Collins is a grain of salt because he might not play. But as of right now, our 2 point guards are DJ and Trey Jones. Our shooting guards are Derek Lonnie and Josh Primo. We've got 4 threes, but these guys, 2 of them can play, or actually there are a couple of 2 of them can play literally 2 through 4, and then Keldon can play the 4 as well. There's like 3 of them that can play 2 through 4. Anyways, I'll stop talking there.
Yeah.
But Keldon, Doug, McDermott, Devin Vassell, and Wieskamp at the 3, Thaddeus Young, Luka, and Al-Farouq Aminu at the 4, and then at the center position, Jakob, Zach Collins, and Drew Eubanks.
Yeah, the more I talk about it, Luis just said it too, playing Zach at the 5. He is 6'11", and he hasn't really played that since. I know he played 2 years ago, right? Was the last time he really played?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the NBA has changed even more since then. So
what I will say though, there are a lot of people who are worried about Zach Collins' injuries, and while the first 2 years you do see some missed games, his first 2 years he still played 66 or 68 is one of those 2 numbers, can't remember, 66, 68 games, and then the year after that, so not this past year, but the bubble year, he played 77. And so yes, this year he was out the whole year, but I mean, so was Derek. You know what I mean? So it's like for the majority of this guy's career, I know he's had some nagging injuries in those 2 years, but most NBA players do. We can also recognize that. He's played most of the year for the majority of his career. So there's a little
I remember him being a problem back then, dude, when he was like playing like healthily. Like he was not like a scrub. Like people considered him like a solid big in the West, like a guy to be reckoned with that could guard some of the better power forwards and centers, in the conference. So
he's from Gonzaga. I mean, that's a prestigious university. He's honestly like a bigger, better version of kind of Killian Tilly. But he was kind of the guy that kind of led that mold at Gonzaga as somebody who can play the 4 and 5, but can also stretch the floor. And I see my guy Jumpman G, first time in here. Thanks for coming in. Spurs are trash with a bunch of exclamation points. So disappointing. Hey, we're in a rebuilding phase. We're not going to win the chip this year. That's been our phrase. Eric Pacina says the Spurs reset the clock to 25. I agree with all of these statements, guys. But what I will say though is, hey, you know what? We're gonna see what we have. We're gonna see what these guys on our roster are really made of. We're gonna learn so that we can get even better for the future. I hope that they don't just ride these guys out and we're just forever stuck in what I like to call the Hornetsville of the NBA, which is the 13th to 14th pick, where you go like 40 and 42 every year. That's not where I want to be, but well, hopefully, I think that like a Keldon Johnson can elevate a team past that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about it, and I've discussed it with a few other friends. Right now, the Spurs are in this place where they're just trying to find pieces to surround our young core and hope that either one of our players from our young core emerges as this, transcendent level cornerstone of the franchise, or we'll just keep falling lower and lower into the draft, and hopefully we'll draft somebody in that top 5 range that can be that transcendent talent. We don't know, but we're not going to go out there and sign, Kawhi Leonard. We're not going to get LeBron, KD, AD. We're not going to get any of those dudes in free agency. Because the more I've thought about it, Jude, the more I'm like, I know people wanted more of a big splash this free agency and with the draft pick and stuff like that, but at least it seems like we're making a decision on where we're going. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was watching Clan the Spurs fan yesterday, and not to steal from him, but he put it basically the same way that you just described it, and it really kind of opened my eyes to it too. That we are learning. The positive of this is we are learning what the Spurs are doing, and I think what they're doing is basically trying to kind of find diamonds in the rough. That's what
Mm-hmm.
they're looking for. Doug McDermott, every single one of his look, stats aren't everything. I try to be the biggest proponent of that, but look, Doug McDermott in every like basically every statistical category last year went up by a significant amount. It seems like he's found a place in the NBA, found his role, has got comfortable as he's hitting his prime at 29 years old. A little older, but still as a shooter, you're going to age really gracefully. So that contract, it's not like he's going to, grow old out of it and we're going to be,
Mm-hmm.
mad at it's not like it's Rudy Gay at the end of this contract, even though
Yeah.
Rudy played well. But Doug McDermott will be fine there. And Zach Collins, somebody who's still 23, similar to the Trey Lyles signing. I think there's a lot more potential here, though, not only because he's younger, but just because of his shooting ability and his size and his skill set. We talked about the NBA, skilled big men are becoming more and more popular. And I think that Zach Collins fits that mold. This is another young player. They're betting on potential, right? All of these guys, they're betting on potential of what, and we're trying to see which one, who can pop up and really be the leader of this team, because we understand that big free agents aren't going to come to us even if we offer them a ton of money. Hooligan Lee, I saw you in there, and
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about how we did absolutely bad with the most cap space. And I love the Spurs too, and I good luck to our young guys as well. But the thing is I'm not sure that we were going to be able to sign anybody anyways.
Yeah.
I think that these big stars are just not really attracted to San Antonio. That's okay. We're a small market. We've won 5 championships, and look, we can't just sit around and wait for the next Tim Duncan. But we've
Yeah.
also got to understand that we've got to have that player, to as a fan base, we've got to understand that those don't come around that often. And we've got to have a player like that to be a championship contender. So we just got to kind of look for that. And we're just going to have to do it through the ways that are possible for the Spurs. And, there are other teams in the league that have more, options, because they're in an LA or a Brooklyn or something like that. So it's tough.
Yeah.
But South Tex, you make a good point here. And you say that, I'm sorry to say, but DeMar, Rudy, and Patty crippled the young guys. I don't know if I would say crippled, but they definitely did. Later in the year, there was some development that I think could have been had that was not had because we decided to give them so many minutes. So we're definitely, it's a fresh start. It's a fresh start.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just, it's the young guys now, and we're giving them that opportunity, Ethan. We talked about that so much and how that was something that we wanted so badly. And I think that that's what we're doing,
Yeah.
even if it's not completely the way that we expected it to happen.
Yeah, and I do want to reiterate something that you kind of touched on there, and everybody's been saying it, including me and a couple of guys in the comments section, about how the vets kind of slow down the development of our younger guys. And a lot of times when we make this argument, some other Spurs fans will comment or tweet something like, "Well, our young guys just weren't ready, or they weren't as good as the vets," and that's 100% true. DeMar, Rudy, and Patty very well could have been the 3 best players on our team.
Look
You
where
know,
they're at right now. Like, look where all of these guys, like, DeMar going to Chicago, Rudy going to the Jazz,
Utah. Yeah.
Patty going to Brooklyn, coveted
Mm-hmm.
championship contending teams.
Yeah. So when we say that they, kind of stifled the growth of our young guys, we're not saying that our young guys were ready to contribute and they would have pushed us, further than where DeMar and Rudy went. We're just saying that, their development could, have been fast tracked a little bit. We could have maybe seen what they were made of, a little bit sooner, and we probably would have lost more games. But that's just what we were looking for.
Exactly. No, what we understand that they'd make mistakes and there'd be
Mm-hmm.
some ugly basketball and we'd lose some games. But from our perspective, we're like, okay, well, we're not winning the chip anyway. So, we're not a contender. Like, so it doesn't really matter. And if the more games we lose, the better chance we have of getting Cade Cunningham. So it was like,
Yeah.
that's
But
why
now
I
we
would
have the
rather play
chance.
Devin Vassell than, and let him,
Mm-mm.
make have a couple turnovers than, trying to win this game against the Nuggets with Rudy Gay. Like, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't really trying to do that, when
Yeah.
Patty Mills is our main source of offense. So
And I want to address Kirk Golson. He said I'm behind, but y'all mentioned flipping Aminu, Thad, and picks instead of getting Oubre. Why couldn't we do that and send an offer sheet to John Collins? So I think
yeah, I was talking about earlier flipping Thad and Aminu to create the cap space to sign Kelly Oubre. That's what I was talking about earlier. So we can't send an offer sheet to John Collins and Oubre because we just don't have that money. If we were going to send an offer sheet to John Collins, we wouldn't have made this DeRozan sign and trade. We would have just sent we had enough for a max. We literally had just enough for a max. And I have a feeling that we sent that offer, he declined, and then we did this.
Yeah, I think that too. And it might not have been about the money. It was probably just he didn't want to come to San Antonio.
I have a feeling that, remember how I said earlier that I was like, oh, he's just bluffing. He'd rather stay in Atlanta. I think he's just trying to get the most money out of Atlanta right now because he wants to stay there. There's the chemistry, everything. They were, 2 games away from an NBA Finals this year. So, and he says, yes, I'm talking about flipping them for picks, then sending an offer sheet for John Collins. I don't think we could flip them and then, well, I see what you're saying actually, because those are the guys that we would be back to the same amount of cap space. I didn't even realize that. That's a great point, Kirk. Thanks so much. Yeah. So theoretically we could do that, but like I said, I still feel like we wouldn't have made this. I feel like we already sent that offer sheet to John Collins, Ethan. I really do.
That's where I'm leaning to. If that happened, Kirk, I would be all for it.
Yes.
We're on your side. I just don't know if it's going to. I think we already tried.
So I'm with flipping the picks for Thad and Aminu for Oubre or John Collins. Either work for me. But the most attractive option if we wanted to get rid of Thad and Aminu and then bring in another 4 would be John Collins. I do like that a lot, but unfortunately, I don't know. I feel like hopefully, I don't know. It's still a possibility. There's NBA free agency is so unpredictable. I'm not going to try to predict it.
Yeah. And
even though
maybe,
I was.
yeah, that's what the whole show is about. But
yeah.
And maybe the Spurs, I don't exactly off the top of my head know who's available next year in free agency.
South Tex, I see you.
Hey, this is John Collins. Yeah,
I'm with you.
Yeah, probably, yeah. I don't know who's available next year, but like you said, Jude, we're getting 2 guys more so with Thaddeus Young than Al-Farouq Aminu, but 2 guys on expiring deals that are going to give us a few minutes. Maybe not Al-Farouq Aminu, but Thaddeus Young is going to contribute, I think, a lot more than we give him credit for.
A position of need, too.
Yes,
I was
exactly.
really happy. I felt like we needed another big. And also, I may have already mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to repeat myself. Once again, replacing Patty Mills, Rudy Gay, DeMar DeRozan, glue guys, right? Thaddeus Young is a glue guy. We had no vets on our roster basically after all these points. Like our oldest player before this trade was Doug McDermott at 29 years old. And Doug McDermott is another glue guy, but having another one in a position of need, just having them in kind of, the guard and the big spot. I know obviously Doug McDermott is a wing, but he can still, talk with the guard positions. He'll run through drills with them and stuff on shooting. Yeah. But yeah, both of those pickups are solid, and to replace the void that, because Patty Mills meant so much to the Spurs culture for so many years. He was the last remaining player from the 2014 championship team. Now they're gone. It's all gone, Ethan. Everything's gone. All the memories. It's really a new day. It is a new day in San Antonio.
I see you, Eric. I hope you're right. I think we'll definitely be competing for that play-in tournament range. I like our team right now, even though we didn't necessarily make a big splash in free agency or in the draft. I still think we're a solid team
I can see
overall.
us, being in the top 10 in the West. I can see that too, because I think DeJounte is going to take a step forward. If Derek's healthy, that changes the game. Keldon's going to be another year better after his Olympics experience. I think he's going to be even better than he was going to be without that experience. And I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, Lonnie, this is his. We know that Lonnie has all the physical tools to be an exciting young player, a very exciting young player. But we haven't seen him really put it together. It was like he took a step back this past year. But there's a lot of guys that their ceilings have not been reached, and there's a lot of guys that have a lot of room left in their ceiling. They're not going to reach it this next year, but they are going to make improvements, like a Devin Vassell, for example. And so I don't think that it's out of, but then again, let's remember, Spurs fans, if things go haywire and we're not, a top 10 team, and we don't compete for a playoff spot and this team isn't competitive, that's not a bad thing either, because then, one, we're going to get probably a top 10 draft pick. And two, we know that the guys that we have right now aren't somebody that, somebody who wants to win a championship would want to build around, so then we can move them. So, and luckily we've signed such flexible contracts that we've allowed ourselves to basically have every contract on our roster, Ethan, is pretty tradable. So the Spurs, if this is what the Spurs plan was, to kind of just bet on these guys, see how this season goes, and kind of figure everything out, they've set it up perfectly, because the flexibility that we have in comparison to last year is just completely different, even though we've still filled up most of the salary cap.
I agree. I don't have any rebuttal.
I just realized that too. So, I mean, like where we're at flexibility wise. So next year, guys, I know me and Ethan, we play a lot of 2K My League. We try to rebuild the Spurs, do all these scenarios, in the fake video game world. We are going to be flexible in the next 2K, in 2K22. So for any of you guys who play have fun with that, you'll definitely have some options there to trade for some stars on the Spurs.
We will finally know after this season what we've been dying to know for like 2 years, which is which of our young core are we keeping and which of our young core are we going to trade and move on from.
Yes. It's going to be crazy that when a year from now we're talking about a Lonnie sign and trade.
I hope he surprises us, but this year he was supposed to surprise us again.
Yeah.
Like this past season,
it feels
I thought
like
he
he's
was
gone
going to play
down since that
a
Houston
little bit.
game.
And I think he just set the bar too high initially, because we had no expectation.
Also, we drafted more guards, more guys who play his position.
Yeah, that too. Dude, I swear though, I don't know if anyone, I know Jude, you do, but 2K disrespects my man Lonnie Walker every year. I was looking at the rosters.
White. They disrespect Derek White so hard. They still haven't updated his half knee sleeves. I have to change it every time.
His dunking rating, I saw it today. It was literally like a 50. I was like, did you not see him in the Nuggets?
I was gonna say no, and I always change it to a 65. I'm like, no. The driving dunk against Paul Millsap, that's at least a 65. It should probably be higher, but that's at least a 65.
Alvaro, Kawhi back to the Spurs.
Yeah, I was waiting for that last night. I was waiting for imagine. Just, obviously it didn't happen, but I was still just waiting for that notification. Kawhi Leonard has decided to sign with the San Antonio Spurs. That would have just been the craziest thing in history. I just wanted to see it happen just because it would have been insane. Like Twitter would have gone crazy. But obviously that wasn't going to happen. I want to see him go somewhere else though, just for the fun of it, just to screw with the league. Like go to the Warriors. If he goes to the Warriors, that would be the funniest thing ever. They would just be trolling the Lakers. He would just be trolling the Lakers.
He would. Oh, I kind of want him
and
to.
And Paul George is just stuck with Andrew Wiggins or whatever they get in the trade.
Yeah, whatever they trade.
Yeah.
South Tex, I agree with you 110%. That's why I think this is the make or break year for Lonnie. He has no excuse. He's going to have the ball probably 99% of the time. Other than Trey Jones, of course, if Trey is actually playing that
you got to push the pace.
Spot. Yeah.
Lonnie,
we're going to get in transition.
That. Yes,
Alexander, you are 100% right. Every time he gets 8.5 points a game. I don't understand.
and it's like I have to, when I make his ratings, I know this may sound crazy to y'all, but like I'm like, this dude is set. This dude's better. Like right now at this moment, his overall ratings like are better than DeJounte.
Yeah.
Like, but DeJounte is always the one averaging like 20 or whatever. Like even when you play
Yep.
with him, he's like the guy that's like you're gonna score with. You're not gonna score with Derek. It's just the way their players are built. I don't know.
You got to crank up that shot tendency on Derek.
Yeah, that's
You got to crank up those tendencies, bro.
the tendencies. That's for the real stories.
Yep.
All right, let's see. Any other it doesn't look like, it seems like that's the main news there. No other news on the Spurs. We haven't flipped anybody yet. We haven't done anything like that. But yeah, let's say thank you to DeMar DeRozan since this is kind of it. What are some of your favorite memories of DeMar as a Spur?
First one that comes to mind is him dunking on the Raptors like twice. Like his first game back when he slammed it. Who was it on? It was on.
Was Kawhi playing in this game?
I don't remember.
Or did he sit? Because I know he usually sat against us.
He played against us when he came to the AT&T Center. Because remember the boos? We had like the loudest crowd booing ever. But yeah, DeMar DeRozan. And I know DeMar DeRozan in the playoffs, but in the regular season, the dude was super clutch. So
he won us so many games. And I'm glad that we're losing him. Like, okay, this is really selfish, but I'm glad that we're losing him. I think you talked about this too, with that new rule, how they're getting rid of like the James Harden like jump in, fouls. DeMar did a lot of that, and that rule's getting taken away next year. And there were so many games where we probably won literally off of free throws because he got fouled. So his effectiveness, unfortunately, I think he'll still be a great player for the Bulls, but that is going to be taken out. I'm glad that he's leaving us when that rule is also leaving.
Yes, that is a fair.
We got max value out of DeMar.
That's true. Another thing I didn't really think about until just now, I'm talking about Lonnie Walker being our sixth man and having the chance to prove himself this season, is now he actually has a lot of shooters around him. He could potentially have Devin Vassell and Doug McDermott and Luka Samanic around him on the bench. Those three guys could be around him, and all of them can space the floor and shoot. So now he has the ability to drive and dish, or Trey Jones has the ability to drive and dish, kick out to Lonnie. Lonnie can make a move off of that and be our next Manu Ginobili. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's been the goal. I mean, I still remember when Pop compared Lonnie to Manu, and that's been what we've wanted him to be. That's what we need him to be this year. And if he is that, we will still have some cap flexibility to pay him. But the thing is we do have to keep in mind that right after Lonnie Walker, or maybe not right after Lonnie, I think actually it might be right after Lonnie Walker. I think it is. Yeah, right after Lonnie Walker. The year after Lonnie Walker, it will be time for Keldon Johnson to get paid. So that's just something you got to keep in mind. And, if things go really well, maybe Lonnie is like, hey, I'm trying to be the sixth man. I know we got to pay Keldon because he's elite and I want to stick this thing together and I want to be, the best, embodiment of Manu Ginobili's role as possible. Then maybe homeboy will take a pay cut. But I think that even if Lonnie has just a little bit better year, but still has some issues, I still think he's going to demand some money in restricted free agency because of how young he is, his athleticism. Like, think about Zach Collins just got this contract. Like, Lonnie is going to he's going to have some interest for sure. And it may not be, and somebody might want to pay him, especially if we're really wanting to bring Lonnie back. That probably means he had a good year, which means he's going to demand even more money in the free agent market with some team that has a bunch that is in the position that we were in this year. Yeah,
you're right, Jude. You're right. And there's one question that we got a lot higher up. I just forgot to look at it. They asked us, who do you think will have the biggest jump this season on our team? I'll throw that to you. You can answer that one first.
Well, I think I'll answer another question in conjunction with this one. So Ray Morales, you say, do we assume that Keldon will start because he's an Olympian? Not necessarily. I assume Keldon will start because he started last year. But I think that Keldon Johnson will be, because he was an Olympian, well, not all because he was an Olympian, but partially because he was an Olympian. One thing I think that will do is will contribute to Keldon Johnson taking the biggest jump this year. I think I'm going to go with Keldon, and then I think I'm going to go with Derek. If I had to choose two guys, that's what I'm going to go with. I think that other guys on the roster, like I think that DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson, Derek White, and Lonnie Walker are all of those guys could potentially have big jumps. Like they could take this next step as players because they're just going to have the ball in their hands way more than they did before. So I think literally all four of those guys could make a big jump. And Lucas Samanic is another one. That's another one.
You took mine, Jude.
If he can just play, if he can just be competent, become comfortable playing in the NBA, his skill set he'll fit in fine as a 4.
I was watching a lot of footage of Lucas Samanic, going all the way back to the bubble when he got a little bit of minutes, all the way until the end of this past season. And when he's playing confidently, like you said, when the play is run for him, he's got a lot of skill for a guy at his size. He looks. No, he is not this player. He's not even close to this player. But how he moves on the court is reminiscent of a young Kevin Durant to me, because he's got a handle at that size. He can pull up. He got a nice jump shot. I mean, I know statistically he was off from 3 last year. I think that was just a confidence thing. But it's a pretty jump shot. He's got a nice follow through. It's a quick release, and he can get all the way to the rack. So if he knows that he's going to be getting consistent minutes, if he knows the ball's coming to him, and he doesn't have to defer to Rudy Gay and Patty Mills, I think that he will, flourish in that second unit, hopefully.
I agree. And so, Gavin Sanchez, do you guys know where I can watch some Summer League? I'm so glad you mentioned this because the Spurs play tonight. There is Spurs basketball tonight. Josh Primo, Devin Vassell, Trey Jones, Joe Wieskamp, Daquan Jeffries even. That's a guy who could have a roster spot. Who knows what happens there. Even Skal Labissiere is also on our Summer League team, which is really interesting. Got a couple other rookies on there. They will be playing tonight in Salt Lake City. And I believe, I will pull up the exact. So there are streams that you can find. You guys can find the links. I'll leave it at that. Don't want to get in any trouble with the feds. But I will say that I believe it's on ESPN or actually no, tonight for sure is on NBA TV. So if you have YouTube TV or a cable subscription, it's on YouTube TV. If not, just search NBA Summer League stream and you'll find the golden bucket at the end of the rainbow.
I do want to address my man Jumpman G. Thank you for the appreciating us for being positive. We try and be positive on this channel, but you said the issue is no one wants to play for the San Antonio Spurs. You are right, but I don't think it's because of what you said. I don't think it's because of Pop and that players don't necessarily want to play with Pop.
There are a lot of other opportunities in other places.
I think it's that. I think it's a market thing. Nobody really wants to come to San Antonio, Texas, generally, because if you're going to come to Texas because we don't have a state income tax, most people want to go to Dallas because they're
Houston.
Or Houston.
There's two
San Antonio
other teams.
is like the third option, especially when we don't have our big three. And the reason I'm going to say it's not because of Pop is because despite all of his deficiencies that some people may say, he's still coaching old school basketball in the modern NBA, and despite all of our lack of superstar talent and all that jazz, we've still managed to be competitive every year to at least try and get into the playoffs. And I don't know about you, Jude, but all I see from other players and other coaches around the league is praise for Pop. You know what I mean? Even the media praises Pop, despite the fact that we haven't really been competitive since 2017.
And that the media doesn't always have the best relationship with him, too.
Exactly. So I don't know if it's because of Pop. I agree with you that he's still coaching old school basketball, but I do think that he's going to make a comeback this season as far as, what he's going to do with the team, because he doesn't have those veterans that he feels like he has to cater to. So we'll see.
Jumpman G, let me tell you something. He's not going to be around for that much longer.
No, that too. He is going to be.
So at the end of the day, even if some players are like, man, I like Pop, but he's just kind of an old dude. Not going to be around for much longer because of that. You'd think. I would say at max, he's no way this man coaches till he's how old is he? Look, let me see. I think Larry Brown went until he was like 80. Joe Paterno went until he was like 82. Greg Popovich right now is 72. I could see him going for another 6 years. I don't see Pop as I don't know. I know that his wife passed away, so like obviously he's got a lot of time on his hands, God rest her soul. But like I can't see if he's really going to be around until he's like 83. I don't know, bro. I give him like max 4 more years. But isn't his contract up this year? I'm fairly certain that it is.
I'm not entirely sure. I always thought he was going to retire right after the Olympics.
That's what I thought too.
Derailed because of COVID and whatnot, and it seems like he was kind of into the whole rebuild idea. But I'm not sure where he is anymore.
Okay, so I think I actually might not know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so he has got another deal. He's not another deal. Another year. So actually he's got 2 more years. So he's got this year and then the year after that, and then his contract is up. So I think he'll just run this contract out, and they'll probably have like the next coach set up.
He's not going to get fired.
Yeah, he's not getting fired. And with the way that Will Hardy and all our other assistants are getting snatched, it seems more and more likely that Becky Hammon is probably going to be who replaces him.
Unless we find another prodigy all of a sudden, like we usually do, to replace him.
That is 24-year-old. She's just been the lead assistant for so long.
I like Becky a lot.
No, I'd be cool with that. I'd be cool with another coach too. I'd be cool with her. It doesn't matter to me. But we shall see. We shall see. To wrap this one up, Ethan, any predictions for the summer league tonight? Unless you got anything that you wanna go through before we wrap this one up.
I'm going to be honest with you, Jude. I don't really know who we're playing tonight.
We're playing one of the Jazz teams. So there's like Jazz Blue and Jazz White. Let me look up their
I'm going to make a bold prediction here, Jude, and say that the Spurs are going to dominate the summer league.
This one, or just the summer league in general?
In general.
Okay. Because this is just the Salt Lake City Summer League. And just by the way, guys, it's literally just the Jazz, the Grizzlies, and the Spurs. So it's just like all the small market teams in the West were like, hey, you guys want to have a summer league? And the Jazz were like, we'll host it. And everybody was like, cool. But we're playing Jazz White tonight. We're playing Jazz White. Tomorrow we play Jazz Blue. And then on August 6th, we play the Grizzlies.
Jazz Blue's tough.
Jazz White, know. Man. Jazz White's crazy.
Know.
Okay, really? It's 7 p.m. I don't know. It's 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So let's see what 7 p.m. Mountain Time is Central Time. So 7 p.m. Mountain Time.
Thank you, Eric. I think that's a Harry Potter joke. It took me a second to get there. I thought you were saying I'm a Wizards fan or something, but I think it's my glasses.
8 p.m. tonight, guys. 8 p.m. It'll be on NBA TV or wherever you find your broadcasts on the internet. I prefer the latter. Well, no, I just don't have cable. But anyways, Summer League tonight, I think that Joshua Primo goes for at least 70, and Wieskamp's going for like 50 at least.
Yeah, he's going to break that Summer League three-point record.
Trey Jones is going to have 40 assists.
That one might be true.
And no, okay. Actually, I will go out on what's a limb? This isn't a limb. I don't know. This is kind of a deep summer league team because I'm like, let's go with Vassell getting 15, but I'm like, I don't know. Maybe Daquan takes 2 of those points. I'll just make a prediction for the fun of it. Devin Vassell has at least 15 tonight if he plays. So.
I like that. I'm gonna make a prediction too. Let's go with I don't even know. Let's just pick a random name on this roster. No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna go with my man Trey Jones. He's gonna get a double-double with assists and points.
Epic.
That's
So the two NBA guys on the team leading the way is the
yeah.
predictions tonight. Nothing too crazy. All right,
No.
I see a question here. First of all, Abdi, thank you, man. We appreciate it. We will keep at it. And just one more question before we leave. This will be the last one. And Tana Prajna, hopefully I pronounced that right. Do you think Pop's coaching Team USA will help him evolve? I think it has. I think that Saints or not Saints. I'm wearing the Saint. Well, I'm just always thinking about Louisiana football. No, I think that this Team USA experience and the Spain game, not Saints, the Spain game yesterday really proved how he has evolved as a coach, and they've gotten to their rhythm, and he's been able to coach these guys and help them get in their rhythm after they lost to this team earlier in exhibition and just had a really tough time in just the beginning of this Olympics, right? And they've really bounced back. And the other thing is too, is that these guys that he's coaching, like they're all stars. So you have to deal with so many personalities that you don't have to like deal with. Like it's different when you're coaching the Spurs and everybody knows their role. In Team USA, you have to get like Kevin Durant and Damian Lillard to understand their role on the team. Obviously, Kevin Durant's is the same, but like Damian Lillard is not, his role is not the same on Team USA as it is in Portland. Same with the Jason Tatum, a Devin Booker, right? So I think that this definitely will help him evolve as a coach. And I think their win against Spain was huge because when you look back at the history, teams that have gone undefeated in the Olympics have had closer games with Spain than this team had. So a big bounce back. I think that taking a couple of those L's and bouncing back will be a great experience for Pop in these final years for him. And thank you guys so much for the support. I see it all in the comments. We appreciate you guys for real.
100%. Alvaro, the you like the intro music? You think ESPN goes to Fiesta? I was literally talking to my buddy Connor Darnell, who made that little intro for us yesterday, Jude, and he was like, "Yeah, I made that in like probably 15 minutes," and he was like, "And I feel really bad because I could have made it so much better." And I was like, "No, it works, man. It works." So I'm glad you guys like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Ethan. I rambled for forever. Any final thoughts from you before we wrap this one up?
As always, go Spurs, go.
There we go. All right, y'all. We'll catch you on the next one. As you guys know, if you want to go back and listen to this or watch it, you can find this on our YouTube channel. For some reason, our stream yesterday, it's having a little bit of trouble, like posting like as an upload. It's taking a really long time to show up on the channel. Sometimes that just happens with live streams. But if you go to like the page on your computer and then you go to like uploads and you click past live streams, then it'll pop up. And you can also go to our Twitter. We always post the links to literally everything if you're having trouble finding it on Twitter. But thank you guys so much for being here. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, here are our @. You can see that. It's just our names. There's an underscore for Ethan in between his first and last name. Mine's just literally mine. And y'all can check all that out. So anyways, thank you guys so much. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Follow us also on Apple and Spotify if you want to listen to the podcast version of all of our SSPN lives and SSPN content. We'll see you guys in the next one.